Hey guys, it's Brian here from Bike Hike Camp Ireland. My friend Mark dropped me in this bike here. He says that the brakes aren't very effective, particularly on the rear. So today we're going to take a look at how you can overhaul your brakes to make sure that they work properly when you're out on your bike ride. Okay, so when I pull the brakes, they go right back to the drop bar. And on the front brake, it's not so great either, but the brake is actually functioning. I've also noticed there's quite a lot of oil on the cassette, so I'm dropping it down into first here to remove the rear wheel. So that was slightly over tightened. I'm removing the rear wheel here, and that's why I have it in first gear. Here I'm loosening off the cotter pin that holds the pads in position. Okay, so I'm removing the pads here. Just have a look at them. They feel pretty oily. So I think they've been contaminated. I'm just going to give them a quick clean anyway, just to see if I can salvage them. In the meantime, I'm giving the rotor a good wipe, and you can see that there's a ton of oil on the tissue. So now I've given it a wipe, and I'm using a bike cleaner just to clean the rotor. You can still see there's oil coming off that. So the rotor is contaminated, which means the likelihood is brakes are contaminated. So I'm using isopropyl alcohol here just to wipe down the rotor, make sure there's no more contamination on the actual rotor itself. So yeah, you can see I'm giving it a real good clean, and there's still oil on it. So yeah, you just got to keep trying to clean it until you get any oil and contamination off the rotor. Okay, so I'm using 120 grit sandpaper, and I'm sanding down the pads. Now I'm also going to give the caliper itself a really good clean. And I'm going to do the front brake as well, because I just think that there's a possibility yet, and there's plenty of oil on the front one as well. So I'm giving that a real good clean too. You can see all the oil coming off that and contamination. So just using like just bike cleaner, and then I'll get most of the dirt off with that and use isopropyl alcohol to clean that. Just removing these front pads, and they don't look too bad. Cleaning the caliper again, and I give them a sand too in a minute. So I've sanded the front pads, popped them back in. Here I'm putting a little bit of anti-seize onto the tread itself. There's tread locker on that. It'll just stop it from seizing up in there over time. Okay, so you can see that these are the old pads from the rear. There's actually, you can see oil in them. They're completely contaminated. So I've just got some other Tektro pads which will match. They'll fit Mark's bike, and I'm just sanding them down here, and then I'll pop them in. Sorry about the camera angle there. So you get the general idea. Just sand them down. Don't clean off the dust, you call it, that's on it. Just leave that there, because that's what creates friction between the rotor and your brake pads. So again, I'm just popping them back in, and again, a little bit of anti-seize onto the pin. Just wipe off any excess and pop it back in. Don't over torque it. Okay, so here I'm just cleaning the through axle, and I'm just popping a little bit of anti-seize onto that tread as well before popping the wheel back in. And again, just don't over torque the axles. So here I'm making some adjustments. I'm tightening up the cable It's frayed cable. I'm not replacing it today because I just don't have a spare one. So I'm making some adjustments on that. Popping a little bit of anti-seize again on the rear true axle. And because I put the gear into first at the beginning, you can just get the rear wheel back on a lot easier. It's way more straightforward. So now I'm just making adjustments to the rear cable, and then making some final adjustment using the barrel adjuster. And that's it. Done. Job done. You'll see the difference now in the braking ability. There you go. So I'll put a list of all the tools that I used in the description. Thanks for watching. Leave any comments, please. Subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you. Bye.